After World War II, the biggest theft in human history didn't happen during the fighting. It happened after the war was officially over. While the world celebrated peace, billions of dollars in gold quietly disappeared. Not in explosions, not in robberies, but through paperwork, sealed vaults, and silent agreements. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't confusion. This was organized. Gold taken from governments, central banks, and entire nations vanished into financial systems designed to erase its origin. And the people who moved it weren't criminals hiding in the shadows. They were bankers, officials, and institutions trusted protected. This is not a treasure hunt story. This is a financial crime story. And if you think this only matters to history, understand this. The same methods used to make that gold disappear are still being used today to hide wealth, to move power, and to make sure the public never sees the full balance sheet. Gold has always been more than just a metal. For thousands of years, it has been humanity's ultimate store of value, the foundation of empires, and a silent witness to some of history's greatest crimes. And in the chaos that followed the Second World War, more gold changed hands in secrecy than perhaps at any other moment in human history. Gold belonging to governments, central banks, occupied nations, and private citizens vanished into vaults that no one could officially acknowledge. The war ended with clear military victors. But in the shadows of diplomacy and finance, the real winners were often those who knew how to move wealth without leaving a trace. This is the story of how the world's most trusted form of money was smuggled, stolen, laundered, and hidden away, and why some of it may still be missing today. To understand how so much gold could disappear, you have to remember what it represented in the early 20th century. Before the war, much of the world's currency was backed by gold reserves. Central banks hoarded it as the ultimate guarantee behind their paper money. For nations, gold meant credibility. For individuals, it meant security in a world that was about to be torn apart. As tensions rose across Europe in the late 1930s, governments that feared invasion began quietly moving their gold abroad. The Netherlands transferred more than 120 tons to Britain, Canada, and the United States. Belgium moved hundreds of tons to what it believed were safe locations. When Nazi forces advanced in 1940, they acted with ruthless efficiency. Gold was seized from every occupied country. This was not simply looting. It was war finance. Nazi Germany used captured gold to purchase critical supplies from neutral countries, particularly Switzerland, whose banks accepted the gold with minimal scrutiny. The most infamous case was Belgium's gold. Before the occupation, Belgium had sent 198 tons of its reserves to the Bank of France for safekeeping. When France fell, that gold was shipped, supposedly for protection, to Dakar in West Africa, then under Vichy control. From there, it quietly found its way back to the Reichsbank, directly financing the Nazi war effort. Other nations tried to stay ahead of disaster. Poland, anticipating invasion, executed a daring evacuation of its gold reserves, moving them through Romania and Turkey, and eventually to the United States and Canada. Even so, vast amounts of gold in occupied territories fell into Nazi hands. Much of it melted down, recast, and stripped of identifying marks to erase its origin. But Nazi theft was only one side of the story. In Asia, the Japanese Empire was conducting its own systematic plundering. In occupied China, Southeast Asia, and the Philippines, Japanese forces seized gold, silver, precious stones, and cultural treasures. Operations later grouped under the name Golden Lily. Much of this wealth was allegedly hidden in tunnels and underground vaults, particularly in the Philippines, intended to be recovered after the war. While some accounts drift into legend, credible evidence confirms that significant quantities of precious metals were hidden and never officially recovered. As in Europe, the line between military conquest and organized crime virtually disappeared. By 1945, as Allied forces closed in, both German and Japanese authorities scrambled to move or conceal what remained. The Allies recovered some of it. The U.S. military's Monuments, Fine Arts, and Archives program uncovered not only stolen art, but massive caches of gold hidden in mines and depots. One of the most famous discoveries occurred in the Merkur salt mine in Germany, where American troops found more than 100 tons of gold bars, coins, and currency alongside priceless artworks. Yet this represented only a fraction of what had been stolen. Much of the rest was already gone, traded, laundered through neutral banks, or buried in locations still unknown. After the war, the story shifted from battlefield theft to geopolitical absorption. Europe was in ruins, borders were redrawn, and the Cold War was beginning. This chaos allowed unaccounted wealth to flow quietly into new power structures. In 1946, the Allies created the Tripartite Gold Commission to return recovered gold to the countries it had been stolen from. Over decades, the commission processed roughly 336 tons. But compared to thousands of tons believed to have been seized during the war, this was only a small portion. The rest vanished into private vaults, undeclared state reserves, or global financial networks that left no paper trail. Neutral nations played a controversial role. Switzerland stands at the center of this debate. During the war, Swiss banks and the Swiss National Bank purchased hundreds of millions of dollars worth of gold from Nazi Germany. Investigations later confirmed that much of this gold had been looted from occupied countries or even from Holocaust victims. Similar accusations emerged against banks in Portugal, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey, which serve as intermediaries in wartime gold transactions. In many cases, secrecy outlasted the war itself. The post-war era also saw intelligence agencies quietly rely on untraceable assets. In the emerging Cold War, gold that could not be linked to any official ledger became a powerful tool. Persistent allegations suggest that missing wartime gold was used to fund covert operations, support favored political movements, and stabilize strategic regimes across Europe and Asia. By the 1950s and 1960s, global finance had evolved, but gold remained central under Bretton Woods system. Official reserves were declared, prices were fixed, yet unofficial holdings likely existed, and some gold in national vaults carried histories that were never publicly acknowledged. Stability often mattered more than truth, and still, the mystery endures. From time to time, new discoveries are announced. Buried caches, hidden trains, shipwrecks loaded with gold bars meant for wartime payments. Many claims prove exaggerated, but some are undeniably real. The historical record is clear. Enormous quantities of gold disappeared between 1939 and 1945, and much of it has never been officially recovered. In today's terms, that represents billions of dollars. Symbolically, it reminds us that in times of crisis, ownership and morality are easily suspended. The modern relevance of this story lies not in the missing bars themselves, but in the methods of disappearance. The Second World War revealed how quickly wealth can be moved, hidden, and transformed when powerful actors decide the rules no longer apply. Those same techniques, cross-border transfers, intermediaries, shell entities, and secrecy remain in use today. Assets rarely vanish. They simply change hands. For investors, the lesson is sobering. Gold may feel eternal and immune to inflation or political chaos, but its safety depends entirely on location and control. In wartime Europe, gold in central banks offered no protection. In peacetime, jurisdictional risk can be just as dangerous. The missing gold of the post-war world is not a curiosity. It is a case study in how wealth disappears under the cover of chaos. The financial historian's takeaway is simple. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. When global systems come under stress, war, collapse, rivalry, the boundary between legal transfer and outright theft becomes razor thin. In a world of digital money, cryptocurrencies, and geopolitical uncertainty, the real question is not whether wealth can disappear, but how fast and whether you will notice before it's too late. Understanding this isn't just financial education, it's self-defense. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.